Hello and welcome to Management 671, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning for Managers. My name is Dr. Rich Gruss and I will be the instructor. I'm very excited about offering this class. This was something that we have talked about for a couple of years now, and the reason we wanted to offer a class in artificial intelligence is because it's a very exciting time in business for artificial intelligence. There's been a resurgence of interest in artificial intelligence recently because of a lot of breakthroughs. And we feel that this is a very important time for managers to be better acquainted with this potentially disruptive technology. So you've probably seen several articles, and whether you read Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg, whatever your Forbes, whatever your information source is, you've probably seen at least a few things about artificial intelligence recently. This slide here shows the Google Trends for the term artificial intelligence. So the way this diagram works is it's got a timeline down here. So we see January 1st, 2004, all the way up to January of 2018. And what this shows on the vertical axis here is the percent of total interest. So for example, in this time period, this 100 indicates that this is when interest in artificial intelligence was at its highest. So these are percent. So this shows the percent of the highest interest in terms of number of searches. Now, we don't have a raw number of the number of searches, but one thing to note is that after this initial decline here down to September of 2008, there's been a steadily growing interest. There's been a trend, there's been ups and downs, and that's just the nature of internet search, but we see that there's a steady trend upward. Many people have come to me recently and said, hey, I read something interesting about artificial intelligence. Have you seen this article? And a lot of times I haven't. In the past year, there were over 200,000 articles written about artificial intelligence. These are the articles that have mentioned artificial intelligence in one form or another, somewhere in the article. I did this search on the news bank. So this is all many different news sources. So the sum total of articles across all these different periodicals. Of those 2,000, 2001, 201,567 articles. Of those about artificial intelligence, over 80,000 of them were specifically about how it relates to business. And so of these, this 200,000, we see that over 9,000 of them had artificial intelligence in the headline. So there's a real current interest, especially in business, about artificial intelligence. The Wall Street Journal alone last year published 805 articles about artificial intelligence. Okay, so this is definitely something that's been emerging as a major interest. It's been all over the place. And so as we encounter these things, you've probably started asking some questions. I know that I certainly did. What exactly is artificial intelligence? How does it work? What kinds of advances can we expect to be coming sooner versus later? How will artificial intelligence affect work in my career? Will it disrupt my industry? Will complete job tasks go away? Will my particular job be automated? And finally, in this last bullet, I put several questions that are kind of going to constitute the core of what I hope to cover this semester. Should I implement some form of AI in my own organization? And if so, what? How do I implement it? What does it cost? What kind of people do I need? How will it affect the workplace? Are there some guidelines? And will I sacrifice strategic advantage by not implementing artificial intelligence? Okay, so this is really going to be the focus of our discussion of artificial intelligence this semester. We're not going to get too far into the technical sides, although there will be a technical element. But what we want to think about as managers is what artificial intelligence means for our industry or for our particular careers, and what can we expect. Okay, so I just want to start off before I talk about the structure of the course. Is I want to give you my working definition of artificial intelligence. If you're like me, you first heard about artificial intelligence in the popular media, usually in some kind of doomsday scenario, some kind of post-apocalyptic scary world where robots have taken over. Um, AI was along that model. iRobot, of course, was one where the humans turned out to be exceptionally cruel to robots who had the potential for sentience. Um, uh, but it's been appearing more and more, and so I think that one of the things I hope that you'll get out of this course is um, something a little bit more grounded than what you tend to get in the popular media. So, um, artificial intelligence as a term was first created in 1956. So there was a proposal for a summer of research at Dartmouth University. Um, this is a very famous document. It's where the term artificial intelligence was, first appeared in print. And as you can see from this document, I have a facsimile of the original proposal. They were talking about a 2-month, 10-man study of artificial intelligence to be carried out at Dartmouth. Um, it's to proceed on the basis of the conjecture that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. An attempt will be made to find how to make machines use language, form abstractions and concepts, solve kinds of problems now reserved for humans, and improve themselves. Okay, so there's this um, zeroing in on particular cognitive tasks, and the claim that computers can learn how to do these. Not only can they do them, but they can actually learn. And so this was kind of a very famous beginning. Now there were kind of ups and downs in terms of research progress and funding opportunities. But this was really kind of like where all this began. And in attendance were these were several people, but 3 of them have kind of become iconic, kind of very important figures in throughout this long history of artificial intelligence, and that's John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, and Claude Shannon. Claude Shannon he's better known for theory of information, and I heard it said that uh, comparing his intelligence to Einstein is not really fair to him. Um, uh, so there, right at the beginning, there were major researchers who were at the forefront of this. So um, before we talk about what artificial intelligence is, it's kind of useful to reflect on what we mean by intelligence. If we're asking for a computer to simulate human intelligence, well, do we really have a firm sense of what we mean by human intelligence? Um, there have been various attempts throughout psychological history and education history to come up with ways of breaking down human intelligence. This is one that I came across recently. Um, all of these different kinds of cognitive specialties, people seem to be good at some of these and maybe not so much on the others. So, you break this down, some people are really good at the language side. Some people have what's called bodily kinesthetic intelligence. These people who are just immediately better at sports than somebody, a typical person. Interpersonal, people who just seem to have a really good sense of how to interact. mathematical and logical and musical. So we have all of these things that seem to be indicative of some kind of underlying construct of intelligence. But it's hard to really pin down what all of these different competencies have in common. But we do know that there, we see certain capabilities and we say, well, that we know the difference between when somebody is behaving intelligently and when they're not behaving intelligently. So I would like to just take as our working definition as we start the class. Thomas Malone from MIT had this definition. Artificial intelligence refers to machines acting in ways that seem intelligent. Okay, so if we think about what this means in terms of employment, physical automation doesn't seem all that mysterious. We have these various ways of automating physical tasks, everything going back to the cotton gin, that don't seem all that mysterious. But once we have computers that are able to, find inconsistencies in legal language, or are able to go through imagery and draw conclusions that apparently, that on the surface really seems to be something that only a doctor can do. So, we have we have computers that can now automate cognitive tasks. And so I would like to say that this is the area of what we mean by artificial intelligence. It's when computers can do things that they can automate certain tasks that only human intelligence could do before. Okay. Now, there are many more and intricate definitions. If you want to have some fun, you can check out Patrick Winston's definition of artificial intelligence. It's much more specific and very much involved, but I don't think that we need that for our purposes here. I do want to make the point, and this is something that Marvin Minsky said. Remember, he was one of the founders. He said that artificial intelligence over time became a suitcase word, in that it means nothing by itself, but holds a bunch of things inside that you have to unpack. So I have witnessed just over the course of my career, the last 15, 20 years or so, that there are these various technological breakthroughs and approaches that took on the term artificial intelligence fairly late. And so it is the case that certain technical approaches that didn't used to be called artificial intelligence are now grouped under the general heading of artificial intelligence. One example is machine learning. Used to just be machine learning, but now it's a branch of artificial intelligence. So be aware that the term itself is not very clearly defined, and that it's constantly evolving as more and more technologies group themselves under the heading of artificial intelligence. And to make matters more confusing, there's a big hype cycle going on right now, and so you'll see in business, you'll see ordinary computational tasks being called artificial intelligence just for marketing purposes. So another one of the objectives of the course is to help you identify the difference between when those claims of artificial intelligence, that is cognitive automation, is really legitimate and when it's just a bunch of fluff. Okay, so, but it is a suitcase word, but there are some commonalities between these technologies that are called artificial intelligence. For example, some kind of perception of the environment. So computer vision, facial recognition. In self-driving cars, there's being able to know when if another vehicle is approaching or when there is a pedestrian in the walkway. So there's some kind of perception of the environment that goes along with AI. There's also identifying patterns, making deductions, that is starting with some observations and drawing some conclusions. That's a very abstract human capability that machines are able to take on now through symbolic logic processing. And another one is learning, possibly through reinforcement, and more generally, just taking the correct course of action to reach a goal. So just being given a goal and then knowing what the correct thing to do is to get to that goal. So it's another aspect of intelligence. Okay, so in this course, we're going to interest ourselves mostly with applications because that's where we're going to be most affected. The most interesting, I made a little short catalog here of where I see some of the most interesting applications of artificial intelligence to be, including medical diagnosis. That is, it's been a long time that they've had machines that know how to ask the right questions to diagnose a medical problem. There's now the legal analysis of evidence. They Some researchers are taking satellite imagery and being able to take something like this, actually thousands of these kinds of images, and running them through an artificial intelligence processor that can actually make predictions about crop yields. Likewise, this image down here is also satellite imagery, but in this case, the use of this image is to look for suspicious activity in violation of fishing rights. So you see a lot of these highlighted data points here are in areas where there are certain regulations about fishing that are being enforced. Well, how do you tell a computer look for suspicious activity? Well, the computer has to learn what suspicious activity is, and so they're getting smart about this kind of thing. Chatbots, okay, this is an application of artificial intelligence. Of course, self-driving cars, this tends to be the one that gets the most media attention. Facial recognition, this is also getting in a lot of headlines now. Language translation, that is this Google Translate. Remarkably enough, this is not just dictionary lookups, but this is this kind of precision is achieved through something called machine learning, and we're going to get into that in this course. Automated insurance claim processing. We've got traffic lights now that can actually learn. They see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and they adjust their timing accordingly. And then, of course, something as simple as the Netflix recommender systems. They apply artificial intelligence to be able to understand you, how you're similar to other people, and they can recommend shows on the basis of the conclusions that they draw. Okay, so in this course, we are going to look at really three major subdivisions of this content. We're going to spend some time talking about the technologies that enable artificial intelligence. So this is going to be expert systems, knowledge-based systems. They're really the same thing. We're going to take a look at machine learning, natural language processing, and artificial neural networks. Now, we are going to handle these things from the standpoint of understanding where they are appropriate, where they can be helpful. We'll also be looking at how they work. And so I have a background in computer programming. What I would like to do throughout the semester is to show you the technical side of it so that you'll understand if you do want to implement artificial intelligence, what kinds of technical things you're facing. And throughout the semester, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a technical dive into things, but our emphasis is going to be recognizing opportunities, recognizing what's feasible, and then how to implement it. Okay, so these, when we look at these, that's the perspective that we'll take. Okay, so in addition to the technologies that enable artificial intelligence, we're going to look at technologies that are enabled by artificial intelligence. Okay, so because of better processing of visual imagery and various sensor data, we now have effective robots and drones. Okay, so finally, we want to spend some time, particularly in the last module, looking at practical concerns. That is, implementation best practices. That is, what do we need in terms of resource personnel? What can we expect in terms of timeline? What's a good idea and what's not a good idea? What's feasible, what's not? And then finally, some ethical issues. Now, a lot of times when people bring up ethical issues related to artificial intelligence, There is kind of a scare scenario where, when we have super intelligent robots, what happens to humanity? I want to leave aside larger questions like that and focus specifically more on things like job security, job satisfaction, and issues of privacy. So more concrete ethical concerns that we can talk about, things that could emerge from the implementation of these technologies. Okay. So the general format of the course is going to be project-based learning. So early in the course, I'm going to invite you to reflect on your own particular interests, your own career, your own organization, your own industry, and to think about where artificial intelligence might play a role. And so we are going to have scheduled topics, but as a graduate class, the intent is to kind of stimulate an interest in something so that you can think about a particular application within your organization. And then throughout the term, kind of learn more and more that you will need in order to produce an artificial intelligence implementation plan, so a roadmap. So our goal here is for you to think about artificial intelligence and where it fits into your world, and then finally deliver a proposal for an artificial intelligence implementation. Okay, and so you're going to be talking about the technical side of it, and the technical methodologies, feasibility, ethical concerns, and so on and so forth. But we're going to go into more of the project later. But this is our ultimate goal. Okay. All right, so as far as how the class is run, we have 7 different modules. I hope that you've had a chance to look at the syllabus by now. And so we've got those 7 different modules that each deals with a particular topic, either, an enabling technology or a technology that was enabled by AI. And so for each of the 7 modules, what I'm asking you to do, so the module is going to take 2 weeks. So you should complete the readings, respond to the forum prompt on D2L, and reply to others' responses. So it's really important that we have a lot of good participation, good discussions. This is, with 200,000 articles, obviously I can't keep up with everything that's being done. So as you observe things and come up with ideas, it'll be a tremendous help, and to help other people see some things they might have overlooked. So I do want to encourage good participation on D2L. So the third, module responsibility would be to volunteer to lead discussion of one of the readings. So for each of our meetings, we're going to have discussions of the readings, and a few days beforehand, I'm going to just put out an invitation. If you found something that you found particularly interesting and you want to raise some issues, go ahead and take that one. And you'll each take one. Okay. And so on every other Wednesday, starting September 4th, we're going to meet on Wednesday evenings. I'm still tinkering with the technology, with the trimodal technology. So I'm going to keep you informed as to how exactly that will work as I learn a little bit better myself. And so then on the Wednesdays that we are not meeting, you'll have a writing assignment. Okay. So if you, let's see. Okay. So I hope that clarifies how the course will run. So here we have the first module is going to be about our definition and history and applications, and our meeting there will be on the 4th. Okay, so that'll be the first time that we actually get together. So then we're going to do a unit on expert systems, and I'm going to let you in class actually build an expert system. So I hope that will be fun. It won't be too difficult. I hope that it will be fun. And so you'll see that on the syllabus here, your writing assignment is right there, generally 500 words, and it tells you when they're due. Our third unit will be particularly about machine learning, and we've got some readings from the books as well as online. We're doing a unit on natural language processing. So this is my own particular area of research. I've published several papers on natural language processing. I've lately gotten interested in chatbots and how they make use of organizational information resources, and combine this with a process ontology and a sentiment detector to have realistic conversations, and we'll talk more, and I'll show you some of that as we get there. So finally, we're going to get into deep learning. Now, the interesting thing is, one of the reasons why so much interest has been appearing lately is because there have been major breakthroughs. There were these things like facial recognition and voice recognition, um, and autonomous vehicles. These things worked really badly for a long time. And it's only been like in the last 5-10 years that there were these breakthroughs that really made them work surprisingly well. And those uh, those are now termed deep learning, particularly neural networks, different forms of neural networks that have enabled different forms of intelligence. And so we're going to have a unit, a module 5 will be particularly about deep learning. Okay. And then finally, we're going to have a module about robotics. And in the end of the course, we're going to kind of widen our interest and talk more about these implementation practical concerns, talking about jobs, and then you'll conclude with your final writing assignment. Okay, so that's a rundown of how the course will operate. Okay, and I hope that you'll learn a lot this semester. And this is a very exciting time to be looking into artificial intelligence. We're going to see some major changes in the working world in the coming years. And most of all, I hope you have a good time and enjoy yourself. Okay, I'm in Kyle 382. Please email me or come and visit if you have any questions or want to talk about anything at all.